Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today we're looking at Nova Minerals. The big question is it a good time to buy now?
We want to hear from you. Subscribe, like, and comment to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
So let's get into the analysis. Our goal here is really to understand why this junior resource company, Nova Minerals, has attracted such, unique strategic attention from governments.
Right.
They're focused on the Estelle Gold and Critical Minerals Project up in Alaska. It's a huge area, 514 square kilometers, right in the Tintina Gold Belt.
Okay, so just to be crystal clear for everyone listening, they're a development company, not actually producing much, if any, revenue yet.
That's exactly the starting point, development stage. Explorers, developers.
Right.
Not producers.
Right.
So yeah, minimal current revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd expect negative net operating cash flow. That's pretty standard for junior miners, really.
But it brings up a key point for investors, doesn't it? The information side of things.
It does. This is our first, major financial caveat. Nova's an Australian company.
Okay.
They trade here in the U.S. as an ADR, an American Depository Receipt. But, and this is crucial, they don't file the usual U.S. SEC forms, the 10K, the 10Q.
So if you're only looking at U.S. filings, you won't get the full picture.
Exactly. You won't find those detailed, verified financials easily. You absolutely have to be ready to track down and follow their Australian disclosures. It's essential homework.
Got it. It's a big due diligence flag right there. Okay, but normally a company like this, pre-revenue, they're constantly issuing shares, right? Diluting existing holders to raise cash for drilling and everything else. What happened here that sort of flipped that script?
Yeah, 2025 was transformative for them. The U.S. Department of Defense awarded Nova Minerals a grant, $43.4 million.
A grant, not a loan.
No, a grant. And the key word is non-dilutive.
Wow.
It's not equity. They didn't sell shares. It's not debt they have to repay. It's direct government funding.
$43 million, non-dilutive, for a junior resource company. That's almost unheard of. It must massively de-risk their immediate financial situation.
It fundamentally changes the near-term picture. It tackles that huge funding hurdle head-on. This cash injection is specifically aimed at speeding up a domestic U.S. supply chain for antimony.
Antimony. We'll get to that.
Right. And it gives them a really significant liquidity cushion. They can push their projects forward without the same constant pressure to raise capital that crushes so many other juniors.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's pivot then to the strategic angle, because that grant really hints at the core story here. This isn't just about gold, is it?
No, not at all. That's the unique part. They have this dual asset base, potentially large gold reserves in Alaska, yes, but also this critical exposure to strategic minerals, specifically antimony.
Then let's talk about antimony. Why is the Defense Department suddenly so interested in funding this specific metal? It's not exactly lithium or copper in terms of headlines.
It's not glamorous, no, but it's vital. Antimony is officially classified as a critical defense metal. You find it in, all sorts of military applications, ammunition, tracer rounds, night vision, infrared sensors, even flame retardants. Really crucial stuff.
And the strategic issue is domestic supply.
Exactly. The U.S. has virtually zero domestic production right now. They rely heavily on imports, often from places that aren't exactly geopolitical allies.
They're a major vulnerability.
A huge one. And this makes Nova's project incredibly strategic. They're positioning themselves not just as a miner, but as a potential first mover in the U.S., aiming to supply military-grade antimony, maybe by 2026, 2027.
That completely elevates them, doesn't it? From just another gold explorer to something like a strategic national asset.
Precisely. And the political engagement confirms that. It's not just the grant money. The sources mentioned high-level briefings. Nova was invited to talk directly with leaders in both the U.S. and Australian governments.
That's not standard corporate lobbying. That sounds like recognition, like they're being treated as a potential partner.
It provides a kind of competitive advantage that, frankly, money alone can't buy. When government departments see you as strategically important, things like permitting, maybe logistics, they tend to move a bit smoother, and future contracts seem, more plausible.
Okay, but let me push back a bit here. Devil's advocate time. This is still a massive project, right?
Yeah.
Remote Alaska. Complex. And now they're trying to do two huge things. Develop a gold mine and build a specialized antimony refining supply chain. Doesn't that just double the execution risk?
That's absolutely the right question. It is the core operational risk here. Yes, tackling two massive goals simultaneously increases complexity. It increases the chances of delays, cost overruns, all of that.
Right.
However, That $43.4 million grant specifically targets the antimony side. It directly offsets a large chunk of the financial risk associated with setting up that refining capacity. They're essentially being paid by the government to mitigate part of that specific execution risk. It's a really important distinction.
Okay, point taken. The grant cushions that specific risk. Now, how has the market been digesting all this? It sounds incredibly news-driven and potentially volatile.
Oh, absolutely. Very volatile. Remember that huge spike? A 68.5% jump in a single day, just after the news about those government briefings came out.
Wow.
It shows you just how sensitive this stock is to policy announcements and strategic news. It can become a pure momentum trade very quickly.
So looking at the charts now, say late October 2025, the ADR price, NVA, it seems to have calmed down a bit, settled into a pattern.
Yeah, it's consolidating. We don't need to drown in the exact moving average numbers, like $11.83 for the 50-day, $11.92 for the 100, $11.59 for the 200.
Okay.
The point is, the price is trading really tightly around all those key levels, the 50-day, 100-day, 200-day simple moving averages.
Which suggests what, technically?
It often acts like a coiled spring. The stock isn't extremely overbought, it's not falling apart, it's building energy in a narrow range, often just waiting for the next significant piece of news to make a bigger move.
And the momentum indicators, what are they telling us?
They're a bit mixed, actually, which fits that coiled spring idea.
Yeah.
The RSI, the Relative Strength Index 14, it's around 47.76, which is pretty neutral, not overbought, not oversold.
Right.
The MACD indicator is giving a slight sell signal, technically, but interestingly, the rate of change, the ROC, is positive 12.91, which is usually seen as a buy signal.
So mixed signals, but that positive ROC is interesting, suggests underlying strength.
Yeah, it suggests momentum might be quietly rebuilding under the surface while the price consolidates. So if you put it all together, the short-term technical picture, say for the next 3 months, looks kind of bullish within a range, maybe $11 on the low end, $14 on the high end. Unless some major news hits, yeah. Then you could potentially see a real breakout above that $14 level.
Okay, so the technical setup seems ready for a move. Let's talk about something structural that just happened, designed perhaps to help that move, the ADR split.
Yes, this is a really big deal, structurally speaking. They just did a 5-for-1 forward split on their ADRs, effective late October 2025.
And the goal isn't just cosmetic, making the share price look lower.
No, not primarily. The main driver here is liquidity, plain and simple.
Right. More shares available to trade.
Exactly. They've essentially multiplied the number of tradable units by 5. This makes it much easier to buy and sell large volumes without moving the price too much. It improves market access.
Which makes it more appealing for bigger players, institutions.
Precisely. Many large funds have rules about minimum trading volumes or liquidity. This split helps NVA get onto their radar, or makes it easier for them to build a position. It also makes it easier for retail investors to participate.
So expanding the float, paving the way for potentially more institutional money to come in. Trading started on that new basis almost immediately, right? October 29th.
That's right. It's kind of setting the stage, you could say, for these near-term catalysts we need to watch closely now.
Okay, let's list them out. What should we be watching for, say, over the next 0 to 3 months?
Well, first, keep an eye out for any follow-up government actions. That initial $43.4 million was for acceleration. Is there more support coming? Additional contracts, maybe? Or other awards from the Defense Department as they demonstrate progress on the antimony supply?
Makes sense. And then the bread and butter for any resource company.
Technical updates. Absolutely. We should expect, or at least hope for, news on the resources themselves. Updated drilling results, new resource estimates for both the gold and, perhaps more importantly right now, the antimony.
Because positive news on the resource size or grade, especially for antimony, could be a huge catalyst.
Historically, yes. Those kinds of updates can really move the needle for junior miners. And then there's a key market event coming up.
Ah, the ETFs.
Yes. The big ETF rebalancing typically happens quarterly, so watch early December 2025. Think about funds like GDXJ, the Junior Gold Miners ETF, or XME, the Metals and Mining ETF.
How does the split affect that?
If this ADR split genuinely improves liquidity and allows these big ETFs to increase their weighting in Nova Minerals, they have to buy shares to match their index. It's mandated. That can create significant sustained buying pressure, almost independent of the daily news cycle.
Okay, so that's the near-term picture. What about looking further out? What are the potential long-term drivers that might make someone want to hold this stock for years?
The long game here is really about strategy and macro trends. The number one long-term catalyst is them actually delivering on the antimony promise. moving from development into actual refining and reliably supplying the U.S. defense sector. That would validate the whole strategic national asset thesis.
Proving the concept.
Exactly. And the second big one, which is always in the back of investors' minds with successful juniors.
M&A, mergers and acquisitions.
Right. Given this unique mix, large potential gold resource plus strategically vital critical minerals, Nova could become a very attractive takeover target down the line.
Who might be interested?
Well, it could be a major gold producer looking to add ounces and diversify into critical minerals. Or, perhaps more intriguingly, you could see interest from industrial companies or even defense contractors looking to secure that antimony supply chain directly. That makes them quite unique.
Okay, we've laid out the bullish case, the catalysts, the strategic angle. We touched on execution risk earlier. Let's just clearly recap the main risks. If someone's listening and considering this, what are the top 3 things they absolutely must keep in mind?
Okay, risk number 1 is just the inherent risk of junior mining itself. Resource development risk. Projects face delays, costs can balloon. Getting permits in remote places like Alaska is never simple. It just comes with the territory.
Standard mining risks. Got it. Number 2.
Commodity price volatility.
Yeah.
Gold prices fluctuate, that's a given. But antimony prices can be even more volatile, less liquid market. So the value of their key asset could swing significantly based on metal prices.
Okay. And number 3.
Back to what we discussed, pure execution risk. Even with government support, building out major infrastructure in Alaska for both gold and antimony is a massive undertaking. It requires immense capital, logistics, expertise. There's always a risk they might stumble in the execution phase.
Right. But you mentioned earlier the grant helps mitigate some of that capital risk, at least on the antimony side.
It does.
Yeah.
That non-dilutive funding is a significant cushion compared to many other high-risk juniors scrambling for cash. It doesn't eliminate execution risk, but it certainly helps with the immediate funding pressure.
Okay, understood. Now let's shift gears slightly into the more speculative territory. We know the risks, but what about the rumors, the chatter? What's the sort of high potential, unconfirmed buzz floating around this company?
Well, the speculation is definitely running hot, mostly focused on partnerships and expansion. There's a lot of chatter about potential follow-up U.S. military supply contracts, maybe going beyond that initial grant.
More government money or commitments.
Or possibly a major joint venture. Specifically, speculation about partnering with someone to help build and operate that antimony refinery capacity in Alaska. That would de-risk the execution significantly.
Makes sense. What else?
Because antimony is so strategic and has other industrial uses too, there's buzz about potential offtake agreements, maybe locking in deals with major metals trading firms or even battery manufacturers looking at antimony's properties.
An offtake agreement would be huge, right? Guaranteeing a buyer for future production.
Absolutely. That provides revenue certainty and can dramatically re-rate the company's valuation almost overnight. And then, of course, there's the evergreen mining rumor.
A massive resource upgrade.
Exactly. The perpetual hope for a game-changing announcement about the Estelle project finding significantly more gold or higher-grade antimony than currently estimated. That could fundamentally change the economics.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together, the fundamentals, the strategy, the technicals, the risks, the rumors, what's the overall take from the sources? Generally positive.
Decidedly bullish, actually. The sources seem to give it a strong rating, something like an 8 out of 10.
And the rationale for that bullishness?
It really comes down to that unique convergence. You've got the potential safety of gold combined with the strategic necessity of a critical mineral like antimony, plus this rare explicit government backing.
A powerful combination.
It is. And you layer on top the supportive technical picture right now, that consolidation we talked about, plus strong near-term catalysts on the horizon.
Yeah.
Especially that ADR split potentially opening the doors for more institutional buying.
It feels like this stock has an interesting dual appeal then.
I think so. The improved liquidity from the split, the constant potential for news flow. That makes it potentially attractive for shorter-term traders looking to play catalysts.
Right.
But the bigger picture, the macro trend towards securing critical minerals, the national security angle, the M&A potential, that makes it a really compelling story for long-term investors willing to ride out the development phase volatility.
So a final thought for listeners considering Nova Minerals.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly an intriguing story with unique upside potential thanks to that strategic alignment. But remember, this is still a development stage company. The ultimate answers, the proof, won't come from market rumors or even government announcements alone. You absolutely need to keep a close eye on their actual operational progress, monitor those Australian disclosures, watch for drilling results, track their milestones towards antimony production. That's where you'll find the definitive evidence to see if this compelling story translates into tangible value. That's the real due diligence required here.